here, my students did a great presentation on Friday about looking at marginalized community, underserved communities, and how education systems have treated them historically and how they've pushed them out of certain key systems that are there that are supposed to be supports, right? So I think going back to your original question, it's a holistic approach. And what do I mean by a holistic approach? It's multifaceted. It's not one solution. We all play a factor in this. For me, and a lot of my work, some of the key primary agents that are crucial to supporting healthy development for all youth is family, school, and law enforcement. Those are key, what you would call social control agents, because families are supposed to love, provide the nurturing, the guidance, the support, the values. Schools are supposed to what? Be a forum where they can implement those values. They could have the socialization experience and really start to develop their identity. And then law enforcement is supposed to create safe spaces and safe settings so all could gather and engage in healthy development. But when any of those systems are compromised, that actually starts to create harm. If the youth are not receiving it in the homes, if they're not receiving it in the schools, most likely it becomes adversary and they start to challenge society, and then you have law enforcement regulating them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like a trickle down approach.
I think it's really, really important to trickle down approach. And you're right, when either of these institutions are performing, then the system will not work. People will not trust you, and everything will fall down eventually. Now, I've seen a lot of work that you do. You work with the system impacted youth. So people who don't know the term system impacted, I want you to explain that term, because the term outside the US is not known at all, what the system impacted youth is. Though there are a lot of young people who are system impacted. They just don't know the term, and how you engage with them. And first, I want you to little explain the term system impacted, but also like how you engage with them and engage and include them into the community development.
Yeah.
And using your best practice, I know you do a lot of work, so use one of the best examples you have.
No, that's great to, like I would say, operationalize your definitions. So system impacted, there's multiple ways you could look at system impacted. So for a system impacted youth, this could be a youth that has been touched by the child welfare system, the foster care system, and they've been removed from the homes because the courts have identified they don't have caregiver in place to fully support them. So through Parents Portray, they had to have state intervention to work with their kids, and they've been attached to the child welfare system. Then you have youth who have been touched by the, what we call delinquency system, and that's the carceral system, that's the prison system. So you have youth that have found themselves now interacting with the prison systems because of the whatever behaviors they're displaying. And now you have the intervention on behalf of the courts being involved. That's also system impacted, right? Youth who have been touched by the child welfare system and youth who have been touched by the delinquency system, which is probation, juvenile courts. So when we say system impacted, these youth have been touched by these systems. The child welfare are the delinquency, which is probation, the carceral system in prisons, right? And what we see, I think I was talking earlier to a group of folks, I know we have people from Layup and that are here. I don't know, this is a term that's hard to explain, but not sure if people are aware of the school to prison pipeline.
Yes.
Right, the school to prison pipeline, it's real sad that you have youth who are being pushed out of the school system here in the States, and they're finding them in the carceral system, right? There's something I've been reframing as the trauma to prison pipeline, where children are acting out their pain because of these systems that have negatively impacted them, and they're acting out their abuse, the harm they endured, and they're being met by the prison system. So that's a whole other how we're looking at it and framing it. How do we start to work with kids who have been harmed? We first need to recognize they've been harmed, and we can't continue that cycle. We need to disrupt that cycle and really see them as children.
Someone needs to understand.
And we need to understand that they have been harmed. How could we create forms that will be nurturing, supportive, engaging, and empowering, right?
I think it's very important to understand the root of when something happens. For example, a crime happened, someone becomes a thief, you need to understand why. What was the problem there? A person become a thief, need to steal. Why a person become a criminal? Why he chooses to? And we need to address those causes. If we're not addressing the root causes, we're not doing anything. We're just punishing a person who have been impacted by the larger system of the governance. And as you say that, like you're punishing a person who is acting out of the pain, and that's people don't understand that. A system don't understand that, and I think we need to have a larger understanding of the root cause of what is causing the problem and treat the root cause. I mean, if someone have a pain in their hand or in a finger, you don't cut the finger, you treat it. Right? What we do in the system, we cut the finger off. And we're saying, okay, problem solved. No, the problem will go to the second finger,
Yes.
then the third finger, then the fourth finger. Are you keep cutting the fingers, or are you going to treat the cancer or the pain? So I think that is what you're saying is really, really powerful. And I think people in the room watching online, even if system is not trying to understand us or those kids, at least you try to understand them. Because if even one person understands that what's going on, for them it's a lot. It's a lot. You can keep labeling a thief however you want to, but sometimes you need to try to understand the person where it's coming from and at least try to address the root cause. So any concluding remarks?
Well, that's so important as we close out here. I just want to say, you described it so beautifully. And again, I want you to understand, I don't want you to get this twisted, because I'm not condoning violent behaviors. I'm not condoning certain behaviors. But if we continue to take these symptomatic approaches, we're actually not getting to the root of it. We're not getting to what is causing this. And, you hear this trauma-informed care approach now. All it is really trying to understand what's happening versus what's wrong. We need to get to the root cause, and that's by how we frame it, taking more of a public health approach instead of a criminal approach to these issues, because it is not a criminal issue. It's more of a health issue.
Yeah.
And if we start to frame it in that lens, our practice, our research, and our policies will now support in identifying the causal factors, economics,
Economic, the top one,
right?
social.
Unaffordable housing.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I heard some of your prior panels on poverty. My whole work also looks at what we call rapid development, gentrification here in the States. I mean, studies indicate by 2050, about 77% of the world will be urbanized. And with that, you're going to see lack of resources, which creates conflict. So it's not really about, hey, no, it's people trying to survive. And if we don't start to reframe the discussion, we're going to continue to just incarcerate everybody. And before you know it, it's like, what do we have, right? So I appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate this conference. I want to give a shout out again to the International Youth Conference. Let's give a round of applause to what you all are doing here. As you continue. And if you do have a chance, I really encourage you all to check out, not plugging them, but I think they do it best, like Homeboy Industries, which they create
Yes,
a really healing approach
yes,
to what we're talking about.
yes. I think you're talking about, I've been there at the Homeboy and we had some sort of dinner
Yes,
there.
lunch.
Yes, so it's while they're traveling people from outside, there's a restaurant or a center here. It's called the Homeboy.
Homeboy Industries.
Homeboy Industries, and everyone who worked there actually have been in a prison or have been system impacted, as we give you the definition of system impacted, and they are rehabilitating, they're coming back to the society, and they're doing a great job. I've been there in person last year, and I had a food at that restaurant, and it's a wonderful place to go, and wonderful people, very welcoming. You all are visiting, do get a chance to go there, see what they're doing. They have more than the restaurant. They have the clothing store. They have other mental health facilities there at the same building. Go there. It's not far. It's downtown. So
Yeah, and if I could just say this, there's so many other organizations, I think of ARC, CIS, Champions, etc. There's so many organizations, Youth Justice Coalition, that are committed to the youth and really supporting them the way we're talking about. But I just want to highlight this. Father Greg Boyle, who started Homeboy Industries, he used to say nothing stops a bullet like a job, right? He doesn't say that anymore. Because what he's come to the conclusion is that you could give somebody who's been impacted by the carceral system a job. They may or may not return to prison. You could give somebody an education. They may or may not return to prison or reciprocate into gangs and drugs. But what he came to this conclusion is once you start to work on their root causes, on their pains, their wounds, you start to take a healing approach.
yes,
They will not return back to prison.
wonderful.
And that is a huge, not just outcome, but impact that we need to take in legislation, policy, and research and practice models. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Professor, for stopping on the conversation. Thank you, Jeff. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Ali. Thank you so much, Professor Hernandez. We're so happy to have you. Next, we will be having a panel titled, How to Advocate for Policy Change and Influence Decision Makers. So I welcome those speakers to come up.